Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo 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 Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
So first we read from Transcendental Diary by Harisuri Prabhu. Sri Vrindavan Dham. Prabhupada gave advice about his monk staff. As far as your danda goes, if it is very troublesome to carry, there is no need for it. Lord Chaitanya's danda was broken by Nityananda Prabhu and he never carried it again. But if you can make another, although for preaching purposes, it may be dropped. Most of his response, however, was to the news of Guru Das's preaching efforts. I am very pleased with your preaching in Poland, and you should continue this program with full enthusiasm. Your coming to Vrindavan is not so important and it may wait. Please expand this program more and more, for there is a very good and favorable field there. Try and start a center there. It seems possible. Continue this program of Kirtan and Prasadam, for this will conquer their hearts as they have never experienced anything like it before. I know you are a sincere preacher and they will appreciate your good Vaishnava qualities. Please send me reports of your future successes. Thank you very much. Finally, Harike Swami read out to Srila Prabhupada an enthusiastic letter he had personally received from Dwarakesh Das, who was now in Yugoslavia. Dwarakesh Prabhu has been preaching there along with Prabhu Jagadas with considerable success. They held programs on the beach in Split, and later, when the weather turned bad, they did many home programs. They celebrated Janmashtami and Vyasa Puja there and reported that many people have been giving donations of food. There was even a favorable article about them in the local newspaper. They have sold most of their books, and he expressed confidence that many young intellectuals will join us. They have now moved to Dubrovnik. Dwarakesh is Hungarian, and he said he was able to preach to 40 Hungarian tourists who bought 3 Gitas and promised to arrange programs for them in Hungarian universities and colleges. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. Which verse is it? Chapter
22.
Chapter 6?
Yes.
10 to 6 chapter?
12.
There's a mark? Okay. 20? 26?
26, 12, 22.
22. Okay. Yeah, it was. So, text 22. Yasya bhaktir bhagavati
Yasya Bhakti Bhagavati
haro nishreyasesvare vikridato mritam bhodau kim shudrai khatako dakai Yasya bhaktir bhagavati haro nishreshyasesvare Vikridatom ritabodau Kim Kshudrai Khatakodakai Yasya Bhaktir Bhagavati Haro Nisreshyashvare Vikridato Mritam Bhodau Kim Kshudrai Khatakodakai
Yasya Bhakti Bhagavati
Yasya Bhaktir Bhagavati
Rauni Shreyas Sasvare
Sasvare
Vikridato Mritam Bodau
Vikridato Mritam Bhodau
Kim Kshodrai Kata Kodakai
Yasya Bhaktir Bhagavati
Yasya Bhaktir Bhagavati
Harau Nishreyasvare Vikridato Mritam Bhodau
Vikridato Mritam Bodau
Kim Shudhair Khatakondakai
Kim Kshodrai Kata Kodakai
Yasya Bhakti Bhagavati
Yasya Bhakti Bhagavati
Haro Nishreshyashvare
Rauni Shreyas Sasvare
Vikridato Mritam Bodau
Vikridato Mritam Bodau
Shudrai Katakodakai
Kim Kshodrai Kata Kodakai
Word for word. Yasya, of whom? Bhakti, devotional service. Bhagavati, to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Harau, Lord Hari. Nisreyashvare, controller of the Supreme Perfection of life or Supreme Liberation. Vikridataha, swimming or playing. Amrita Ambhodau, in the ocean of water. Kim, what is the use? Shudrai, with small. Khataka Udakai, ditches of water. Translation. A person fixed in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord, Hari, the Lord of the highest auspiciousness, swims in the ocean of nectar. For him, what is the use of the water in small ditches? Purport by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ritasura has formally prayed Bhagavatam 6.11.25 Nanaka Pristham Nacha Paramestyam Na Sarvabhaumam Narasadhipatyam. I do not want the facilities for happiness on Brahmaloka, Swargaloka or even Dhurvaloka, not to speak of this earth or the lower planets. I simply want to return home back to Godhead. This is the determination of a pure devotee. A pure devotee is never attracted to any exalted position within this material world. He simply wants to associate with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, like the inhabitants of Vrindavan, Srimati Radharani, the Gopis, Krishna's father and mother, Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda, Krishna's friends and Krishna's servants. He wants to associate with Krishna's atmosphere of Vrindavan's beauty. These are the highest ambitions of a devotee of Krishna. Devotees of Lord Vishnu may aspire for a position in Vaikuntha Loka, but a devotee of Krishna never aspires even for the facilities of Vaikuntha. But he wants to return to Goloka Vrindavan and associate with Krishna in his eternal pastimes. Any material happiness is like water in a ditch, whereas the spiritual happiness eternally enjoyed in the material world, eternally enjoyed in the spiritual world is like an ocean of nectar in which a devotee wants to swim. Om Agyana Timirandhasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Vistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Radati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadbhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakanitam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriya Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So in this verse, I think it's Lord Indra, King Indra is speaking to Vritasura. So Vritasura is nearing his death, and after death he wants to go to the spiritual world. And Vritasura, Prabhupada says, is a pure devotee, and a pure devotee does not want even to go seek happiness of Brahmaloka, Swargaloka, or even higher planetary systems. So there are different kinds of... Prabhu, you understand English? Okay.
Yeah. Not so
good,
super, but
okay.
Step by step.
Okay. So a devotee does not... So there are different kinds of liberation that you can have. You can get the same body like Vishnu. You can live in the same planet as Vishnu. You can... So there is Asamipya, Sarupya, Sayujya. You become a companion. So basically there are 5, I forgot the others. But a devotee at least does not want to merge into the Brahman effulgence. Because when you merge, there is no relationship. Right? So devotee wants to serve. He does not want to... It is said, a devotee wants to taste the sugar. He does not want to become the sugar. Right? So devotee wants to taste this relationship with Krishna. And he also does not want happiness of higher material planets. We may not be able to relate to material planets, but we can... higher material planets, but we can relate to some beautiful places on this planet. And we may have this desire sometimes to go for a vacation to a beach or the mountains, So, I think Srila Prabhupada, he was walking in Hawaii once. And he said, if there is any heaven on this material world, it's in Hawaii. I'm not sure if it was Hawaii or Zurich, but one of these beautiful places. So there are beautiful places on this planet also, and people are moving around People like to travel. People travel from the west. They think about the east, all the places, all these exotic tropical places. And then people from the east, they want to come to the west. People are always traveling from one place to another, trying to find some happiness. So then there is the tourism industry that's benefiting out of this. So naturally people want to experience some happiness by moving around. We see so many, sometimes we can just stand in a highway and we can look at so many cars that's passing by. Prabhupada would sometimes joke, these people, there are two places and people from place A are going to place B and people from place B are going to place A. Why don't they just sit together and just have a discussion and say, you stay there, we'll do our work here, you do your work there. It does not have to be so much traveling, he would joke. But yeah, people travel from different places. Even in this planet, and in a bigger scale, people are also traveling from this planet to up higher planets, Brahmaloka, Swargaloka, Dhurvaloka. So Brahmaloka is where Lord Brahma resides, right? Lord Brahma, he is the creator of the universe. He is the first living, created living entity in this material world. And Swargaloka is the heavenly planets, that's where Indra resides. And Dhurvaloka is a place of Dhruva Maharaj. So these are very nice places, it is said. It's the life duration is very long. There is not much suffering. There is a lot of pleasure compared to suffering, right? So we can ask ourselves, if someone comes, if Krishna comes in front of us and he says, do you want to go to Swargaloka right now? I can take you. So what would be our answer? It's pleasing, of course it's pleasing, but as followers of our Vaishnavas, we know that there are higher things than heavenly planets also. Even in the heavenly planets, there is death. At some time you have to die. And also there is other anxieties. Although there may not be physical suffering, there are these mental suffering always. Like Lord Indra, he is always suffering in a sense, because he is always anxious. What if someone else takes my position? So there is always some level of suffering in this material world wherever they go. So a devotee understands this and they simply want to return back home, back to Godhead. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur would say, this material world is not for a gentleman or gentlewoman. Yeah, it's not a right place for any sane person, It's because an intelligent person would not want to stay here forever. So a devotee is intelligent, so he prays that I do not want the facilities of happiness on Brahmaloka, Swargaloka, or even Dhurvaloka, not to speak of this earth or lower planets. So even in lower planets, there are places of big civilization and advancement according to the Bhagavatam. There are places that are very highly technologically advanced, like Atala, Vitala, Sutala, these planets where there are there is a planet of Maya demon, and this is said it's very technologically advanced. Yes, so In the lower planets, mostly it's too much suffering. In the higher planets, mostly it's too much sense enjoyment. And in the middle planetary system, it's balanced. The suffering and the happiness is 50-50. That is why it's special, because if you have too much suffering, it's difficult to remember the Lord. And if you have too much happiness also, it's difficult to remember the Lord. So this, we call this Bhurloka. This is the ideal place for making spiritual advancement. And that is also the reason why the demigods, they pray first to come to this planet actually. Especially in this age of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Prabhupada would say they are waiting in line to take birth in this movement so they can advance spiritually, because it's much easier. Of course, they can go back to Gauradesh from the heavenly planets also, but since we have 50-50 here, there is some suffering also. It helps you in your spiritual journey. Too much happiness, sometimes you forget the goal of life, right? So this is the determination of a pure devotee. A pure devotee wants to go back to Godhead. A pure devotee is never attached to any exalted position within this material world. Right? We can see many examples of devotees who are not attached to the position of this material world. So we have kings like Yudhishthir, and we have Parikshit Maharaj as great example. So Parikshit Maharaj, he had everything, he was the ruler of the whole world, and then he got the news that he is going to die. And then what did he do? He did not protest. Prabhupada says he had so much power that he could actually protest and counteract the curse that was given to him. But he did not do that. He accepted what he got as mercy of Krishna, and then he left everything. He gave up all his kingdom and he moved to the bank of river Ganges. So similarly, there are other kings, Yudhishthir. So basically in the Varnashram Dharma, it is the individuals are trained at first to have some brahmachari training so that they can get some training by living simply and by not being attached. And then they have license for a little bit of attachment when they marry. But it's advised not for forever. You again have to slowly consider detachment. So it's a ladder that so the Varnashram system trains you in this way, that at the end of life at least you can give up your material attachments. So the Kshatriyas also, they were trained in such a way that they did not hold to their positions forever. So this was their training. When they were of the right age, they would give their opulence, their kingdom to their children, and they would move to the forest. Same thing happened to, I forgot their name. Anyway, so they moved to the forest. So and especially a pure devotee is not attached to the exalted position. Currently we find so many bad examples of people who are attached, especially the politicians. They are already of age, they are supposed to retire, but then they are attached and they hold on to their positions until like it's forever, like it's until they die. It's a very pitiful condition. But the Vedic civilization, it's designed so that you are not attached until you die on the deathbed. You are not surrounded by your attachments that you cannot even remember the goal of life. So a devotee simply wants to associate with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, like the inhabitants of Vrindavan, Srimati Radharani, the gopis. So this is what the devotee ultimately wants. When Krishna left Vrindavan, he actually told his friends and the gopis, he said, "I'll be back, I'll be back." But the gopis, they cursed Akrura. Akrura was Krishna's uncle, and they had come to take, Akrura had come to take Krishna because Kamsa had said, I want to organize something in Mathura. So Akrura had come, and the gopis, they were saying, "Akrura, don't you know Krishna is not coming back? Why are you taking him?" So Krishna goes to Mathura, and from Mathura then he goes to Dwarka. In a sense, he never comes back. But then it is said Krishna never leaves Vrindavan. So in one way, it was not Krishna who actually left Vrindavan. The Prabhupada says, the Shastras tell that way. It was just the Vasudev Krishna who left. It was not the Krishna from Vrindavan who left. So when the gopis, when they come to Kurukshetra later on, and then they bring Krishna back to Vrindavan, and the gopis, they pray something like, "Krishna, you are the same person, but it's not the same thing. You do not have the same feature, you do not have a peacock feather, you do not have a flute. You are the same person, but we are not in Vrindavan, we are not beside river Yamuna, it's not the same." So then that's where the pastime of Rath Yatra happens. So the gopis and all the inhabitants of Vrindavan, they are pulling Krishna back to Vrindavan, and Krishna is also has this. So this is very nicely described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So during Rath Yatra, they have discussions of how Krishna was being pulled by the inhabitants of Vrindavan, and they actually wanted Krishna to come back in the form that they liked. So Prabhupada says here, he wants to associate with Krishna's atmosphere of Vrindavan's beauty. So that is what the devotees of Vrindavan want. After the rasa dance, Krishna suddenly left the dance. So he was dancing and he left, and the gopis started searching for Krishna. Where is he? And then Krishna manifested his four-armed form just to hide from the gopis. And the gopis, they came to Lord Narayan, they saw Lord Narayan, and then they paid their obeisances to Lord Narayan, and they said, "Have you seen Krishna?" So the devotees of Vrindavan, they want to have this relationship with Krishna in his Vrindavan's beauty. But when Krishna was in front of Srimati Radharani, he could not manifest his four-armed form. He just went back to his two-armed form because of the love. He could not do that. So yeah, devotees, they want, like we see in these pastimes, the devotees of Vrindavan, they accept Krishna as a normal coward boy. They do not accept Krishna as the supreme. The illusion of Vrindavan called Yoga Maya is covering Krishna's identity. And sometimes even Krishna forgets, and especially all the devotees of Vrindavan, they forget that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Krishna is more pleased with this. This is because this is a loving relationship between the devotees. So a pure devotee wants to associate with Krishna's atmosphere of Vrindavan's beauty. So Krishna in his form as the original form of Krishna is very attractive. It is said Krishna has 64 qualities and Vishnu has 60 qualities. And the 4 qualities that differentiate Vishnu from Krishna, they are like, he has sweet loving relationship with devotees, he carries a flute, I forgot the other 2. Very beautiful. Always with devotees. So, and one more? Pastimes. Yeah, he performs loving pastimes with his devotees. So this is very sweet. And the devotees, so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he gave this, he came to give this highest form of beauty of God to the lowest people of Kali Yuga. And just by chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, this can be achieved. So this is very sublime. This is very high. So these are highest ambitions of a devotee of Krishna. Devotees of Lord Vishnu may aspire for a position in Vaikuntha Loka, but a devotee of Krishna never aspires even for the facilities of Vaikuntha. He wants to return to Goloka Vrindavan and associate with Lord Krishna in his eternal pastimes. So there are many kinds of devotees of Vishnu, and they have different relationships. There is one devotee, his name, it's in Brihad Bhagavatamrita. So there is a devotee named Gopakumar. So Gopakumar is going through different universes. He's just traveling from to the higher planetary systems. He goes to Kailash, and then he goes to Vaikuntha, and then he finally reaches Mathura. So, and then wherever he goes, he is attracted to the deity of that place. Like when he goes to Vaikuntha, he is attracted. But somehow his heart is not satisfied, because originally he is from Govardhan. He is from Govardhan, he is a coward boy, and his heart is not satisfied by any other relationship. And when he goes to Vaikuntha, he sees Vishnu, and at one point he just shouts like a friend, oh Gopal, and all the devotees of Vaikuntha, you can't do that here, this is Vaikuntha. So, and then before he enters Goloka Vrindavan, he is advised to go back to the Vrindavan in this material world, perform his sadhana there, and then only he can go to Goloka Vrindavan. So different devotees have different relationships, but a devotee of Krishna, he aspires to go back to Goloka Vrindavan, where his pastimes are being enacted. Right? So this is very interesting. In Chaitanya Charitamrita there is devotee, his name is Murari Gupta. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was advising Murari Gupta to Murari Gupta is Hanuman. He is incarnation of Hanuman. So he has a very special relationship with Lord Ram. And when it is said, when he would chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, 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 you just start chanting Ram, 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 Ram. So he had a special relationship, of course, because he is Hanuman. And when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would tell him something, and he would be so unhappy because he would not be able to follow the instruction of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to chant Mahamantra and worship Krishna, he would be so unhappy. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he would later come and say to him, it's natural for you because you are no other than Hanuman. So different devotees, they have different relationships. So for us, devotee, in our tradition, we are Brahma Madhava Gaudiya Sampradaya. So we are in the line of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and we worship Radha Krishna. They are our deities. We want to return to Goloka Vrindavan, where his pastimes are going on. Any material happiness is like water in a ditch, whereas the spiritual happiness eternally enjoyed in the spiritual world is like an ocean of nectar in which a devotee wants to swim. So material happiness is very insignificant compared to the spiritual happiness. Sukham hi tuchham. It's stale. There are 6 kinds of descriptions, I forgot the exact, but that describes the kind of happiness we have in the material world. It's temporary, it's stale, it's little bit suffering. For a little bit of pleasure you have to have so much suffering. But spiritual happiness is like ocean of nectar, and a devotee wants to swim there. And the jnanis, especially the Brahmavadis, as we call them, they want to merge into the Brahman effulgence because they think, oh, material world is full of suffering, and if I am not to suffer, then I must, so make it zero. There is negative, there is zero, and there is positive. So negative is you are suffering. So the jnanis, they want to make it zero. But there is more, there is positive engagement also. And that is the spiritual happiness that is found in the spiritual world. So it's compared like a devotee is like a fish who wants to swim in the ocean, and it's not like merging into the ocean like a drop of water, but like a fish. Hi. Whale. Shark. Like a shark. Yeah. So the ocean of spiritual happiness, it's very deep. So once Srila Prabhupada was walking in Venice Beach, I think, and it's the big Pacific, and he asked, do you know why the Pacific is very no, he said, why the Pacific Ocean does not, why the Pacific is silent? There are waves, but then it does not come out from its border. He said it's because the Pacific is very deep. So devotees they're also very deep. They have deep realizations, And anything in the material worlds that are small waves, it does not really affect because they can dive deep. And the deeper you go, there are like so many different organisms you find in the ocean, the deeper you go. So the deeper we dive in Bhakti Yoga, we can find these jewels that you cannot maybe find in the surface. And the bigger fish, the deeper you go, the bigger the fish. So it's a nice ocean to explore. Yeah. I think we are in the right place. So that finishes the purport. I can read one more sloka because this does not have any purport. Because now this Vritrasura now there is fight, I think. And at the end, Vritrasura is killed. So I'll just read 23, maybe few of 24, 25. So 23, Sri Sukha Uvacha iti bhrubhana anyonyam dharma jignasaya nripa yuyudhate mahavirya indra vritrau yudham pati. Translation. Sri Sukadeva Goswami said, Vritrasura and King Indra spoke about devotional service even on the battlefield. And then as a matter of duty, they again began fighting. My dear king, both of them were great fighters and were equally powerful. And this is so interesting. They were philosophical discussions on the battlefield and then they start fighting again. So this is Sukadeva Goswami saying. So now Indra was speaking. So there are different levels of conversation. It's nice to know these levels of conversation in the Bhagavatam. So what is the first level? Who is the first speaker of Bhagavatam? In the first sloka, who is speaking? Yeah. In the first, it's the Naimisharanya sages, right? It's Suta Goswami. He is in front of all the sages in Naimisharanya. And so Suta Goswami is then remembering the conversation between Sukadev and Parikshit. And this is the second level. So first level is, of course, Vyasadeva is writing this. Vyasadeva is writing the whole thing, but he is in the audience. So Suta Goswami is speaking to all the sages. He is remembering the conversation of Sukadev Goswami and Parikshit. And within that conversation also, when Sukadev, he also is narrating another conversation, which is level 3. And these are many others like Narad Muni and Yudhishthir and Maitreya and Vidura. So this is level 3. So simultaneously Bhagavatam in different places switches from level 3 to level 2 to level 1. Like this, It's like one conversation within a conversation within a conversation. And sometimes even within Vidur and Maitreya, there is another conversation that Maitreya is telling to Vidur. So 4th level. So now you can see this from level 3, it's coming to level 2. Sukadev is speaking. Right? So again Sukadev Goswami is speaking. O Maharaj Parikshit, Vritrasura, who was completely able to subdue his enemy, took his iron club, whirled it around and aimed it at Indra and then threw it at him with his left hand. Text 25. Satu Vritrasya parigham karam cha karabho pa mam chichera yuga padevo vajrena sata parvana. Translation. With his thunderbolt named Sataparvan, Indra simultaneously cut to pieces Vritrasura's club and his remaining hand. So now the hand is cut. So one of his hand was already chopped off, and then the other hand now is again chopped off. Text 26. I'll just read the English. Vritrasura, bleeding profusely, his two arms cut off at their roots, looked very beautiful, like a flying mountain whose wings have been cut to pieces by Indra. So he looked beautiful. Purport. It appears from the statement of this verse that sometimes there are flying mountains and their wings are cut off by the thunderbolt of Indra. Vritrasura's huge body resembled such a mountain. Text 27 to 29. Translation. Vritrasura was very powerful in physical strength and influence. He placed his lower jaw on the ground and his upper jaw in the sky. His mouth became very deep like the sky itself, and his tongue resembled a large serpent. With his fearful death-like teeth, he seemed to be trying to devour the entire universe. Thus, assuming a gigantic body, the great demon Vritrasura shook even the mountains and began crushing the surface of the earth with his legs, as if he were the Himalayas walking about. He came before Indra and swallowed him, and Airavata, his carrier, just as a big python might swallow an elephant. So at this point, Vritrasura swallows Indra in the fight. So fight continues on, text 30. When the demigods along with Brahma, other Prajapatis and other great saintly persons saw that Indra had been swallowed by the demon, they became very morose. Alas, they lamented, what a calamity, what a calamity. Text 31. The protective armor of Narayan which Indra possessed was identical with Narayan himself, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Protected by that armor and by his mystic power, King Indra, although swallowed by Vritrasura, did not die within the demon's belly. So Vritrasura is not yet dead, although he is in the mouth. Text 32. With his thunderbolt, King Indra, who was also extremely powerful, pierced through Vritrasura's abdomen and came out. Indra, the killer of demon Bala, then immediately cut off Vritrasura's head, which was as high as a peak of mountain. So finally the head is cut off. Text 33. Although the thunderbolt revolved around Vritrasura's neck with great speed, separating his head from his body took 1 complete year, 360 days, the time in which the sun, moon and other luminaries complete a northern and southern journey. Then at the suitable time for Vritrasura to be killed, his head fell to the ground. Wow. Text 34. When Vritrasura was killed, the Gandharvas and Siddhas in the heavenly planets beat kettle drums in jubilation. With Vedic hymns, they celebrated the prowess of Indra, the killer of Vritrasura, praising Indra and showering flowers upon him with great pleasure. So the last sloka is remaining with some purport. Can be done the next day. Okay. Anything we'd like to add? A comment or questions? Yes, Mother.
What meaning when you say level 1, level 2, level 3? What mean is more deep or?
No, just levels of conversation.
Yes.
So sometimes, let's say I am talking and then I can say, I remember a talk by someone and then I can share. So I'm just sharing that level 1 in a sense, it's on the surface, just on a conversation. But level 2 is like conversation within a conversation. So just the level of conversation, not deep, but level of conversation. Yeah. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhaktivinoda ki jai.